guys, welcome to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. I'm Devin.
And I'm Joe.
And this is the show where we talk about all things Taylor Swift.
That's right. This is the show where two friends finally get to let their dedication to our Lord and Savior, Taylor Swift, fly.
We'll be discussing everything from song breakdowns, Taylor news, and our insane fan theories.
That's right. And we have the doozy. That's right. I said doozy of an episode coming at you. But Devin, before we get into it, what's going on with you?
I am so mad. And I'm so glad you asked. So, for those who don't know, I used to commute an hour to work every day. An hour there and an hour back. And thankfully, to this day, I still have a commute to work, which means I'm still employed. But when I moved closer to my job, my commute was then 20 minutes. 20 minutes, 40 minutes shorter than an hour. Yep,
Ideal.
That's how math works, yes. But so today, we had a really bad flood. Like, it's been raining all day down here, really bad flood. And so what was supposed to be a 20-minute, maybe 25-minute car ride turned into an hour debacle trying to get home. So I was driving on the road, and at one point, I was in like a half hour's worth of traffic, just bumper to bumper, not moving. And then they said, nah, you got to turn around here because the road is flooded. So then I had to drive back around, back through the same traffic that I was just in to get to the other road to go home. And then that was fine. But it took me 40 minutes to just get to the road that I needed to get to. And then from that road, it was 20 minutes, which is my normal commute. So I'm a little bitter today.
My favorite part of this is we were running on like we're recording this as soon as you get home. Our timetable was a little tight. Luckily, it got looser. But I'm like sitting working on the call, working on everything, like waiting for Devin, and then she FaceTimes me. And I just like it was great because she FaceTimed me, and I'm just oh yeah, I'm just going over. What do you think of today's episode? Like here's some changes I'm making to the notes, blah blah blah, all this stuff, and then I just hear her just screaming. And just being so generally pissed off at everything that's going on.
The truck wasn't moving. The truck wasn't moving. It was literally just there.
I heard so much colorful language. I wish that I could have recorded it.
We're a clean podcast here.
It was so funny.
But I was very upset. But that's my day. How are you?
I'm doing okay. I actually have a little quick tidbit I can go into that's been the worst thing that could possibly happen to me. That's a stretch there a little bit. Me and my friend started going to a new bar that's down the street from me, and I'm really happy because I've always wanted to have a bar like that's the bar that I go to. So we went there 2 nights in a row. Awesome, great food. It's all outdoors, like it's an outdoor patio, and at night they throw a projector on the wall and you can watch sports and stuff, which is really cool, which is something I'm really into. So the first night I went, I wore a cardigan, this cardigan, I think, because I was really excited. I finally bought a cardigan, and like I jeans, whatever, went. And it was the next night, it was like a Thursday, and I'm like, I'm gonna dress up a little bit. I'm gonna look a little nicer. So I wore new shoes that I got for my birthday that I hadn't worn yet because they're dressier, and I really haven't had an excuse to wear dressier shoes. But the bar is within walking distance of my apartment, so I walked all the way up there, and I was like, oh gosh, it's like not that long a walk, like a 20-minute walk. Got up there, and I'm like, my foot kind of hurts, like something. It's like it was like there's a stone in my shoe, it was like right on my heel, and I like put my finger in there, and I'm like, I don't feel anything, like I don't know what's going on. And I walked home from the bar in so much agony from this something. What I think it was the shoelace top. Like, you know how like that has like that metal thing on, or not the metal thing, but like the plastic thing on top of a shoelace.
The
I think
aglet.
it was that. I knew you were going to be the weirdo that knows what that's called. I knew it for some reason.
There's a whole Phineas and Ferb episode about it. But continue.
I think the aglet was like in between my heel and the shoe, and it just rubbed up and down.
Okay.
So by the time I got to my parking lot, I had taken my shoe off and was walking in sock and one shoe to my apartment. Got in today and took a shower, or got in that night, took a shower, and I looked at my back of my shoe, and the entirety of the skin on the back of my heel had been completely peeled off. and it has been unrelenting pain for the last 3 days. I hate it so much.
That's what new shoes will do to you. Like you'll get like a really bad blister on like the back of your heel area.
It's
Not fun.
and I'm supposed to go out to the Ren Fair this weekend,
Mm.
socially distant and safe, and it's a lot of walking, dude. That's so much walking.
Comfy
I
shoes and band-aids.
I've put band-aids. I have like Neosporin and like this like repair stuff, like antibiotics, all that stuff,
Mhm.
to hope that like I have a week of just like trying to treat it and make it go away. But like before I was setting up to get everything set, I rammed my chair into the back of my heel and cried for 30 minutes.
Oh no.
So that's about where I'm at. But well, speaking of crying for 30 minutes, heck of a
Segways.
segue. Heck of a segue. Good job. Devin, what are we talking about on this typical Tuesday night?
So today, like Joe said before, we're in a little bit of a doozy of an episode. We are
Did
discussing
doozy.
a duo doozy. So we'll be discussing the breakout topic from folklore, the love triangle between James, Betty, and James's mistress.
That's the one.
That's the one. The one. Yeah. So basically, we're going to talk about what the songs August, Cardigan, and Betty mean to us.
Oh, yeah. I've been hyped for this episode for, I guess it's 3 months now. I am very excited for this. And I know we've been teasing it a lot. And I'm actually glad it took us this long to get to it because we have had a lot of time with this record. We have a lot of time with these 3 songs specifically.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this is going to be a very interesting and very fun episode to really do a deep dive in.
Yes.
I will say for this episode, being the doozy, geez, I hate that
The
we've
duo doozy.
we've really doubled down on that duo double down. Oh gosh, I can't stop. This episode will most likely be a 2-parter. We have so many notes for it and so many different things to discuss that we wanted to go over that this might be the very first we need to calm down 2-part episode.
Dun, 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 dun.
So we're actually really excited just about that, crossing that milestone. But so yeah, just as a forewarning, you might have to wait until Thursday to get the second part of this part, which is when we will put up the second half. So let's get started with what the songs are. If anyone has not listened to our podcast or somehow aren't as ingrained in Taylor Swift, but somehow are listening to a Taylor Swift podcast, we commend you, first off. But second, the love triangle revolves around 3 specific songs on Taylor Swift's folklore. The songs being Cardigan, August, and Betty.
Supposedly. But
Supposedly.
we'll get into that later.
So, Devin, before we go into this, I know we just did our rankings episode, but refresh us. Where did this trio of songs, where did it fall for you?
So for me, August was my first choice, my top song. Cardigan was my number 3, and Betty was my number 6, following from its former number 1 glory.
Number 1 for a while.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
For me, Cardigan fell to number 4 because I think Illicit Affairs finally took over for it. August fell to number 8, and Betty fell to number 9, which I wrestle with this every day, I swear.
So
for me,
yeah.
oh,
How do you? You're good. I was gonna say. So how do you feel about it all? Where does it stand?
Well, I'm living for the hope of it all. For me specifically, I think August has the best and most ridiculously relatable, pathetically sad lyrics. It's it's hard to say it because I feel like every song in this record is a lyrical powerhouse, but for some reason, this one just I was going through like setting everything up, pulling lyrics that like matched or things that were interesting to me, and like they're all just so good. There's so many good one-liners in this song. I don't know why I don't love it more. Like I said, it fell at number 8 for me. And thinking back, I honestly think it might be below Betty just based on like my listening habits. Like I feel like when I go to listen to folklore, I listen to Betty before I listen to August. But I love the lyrics and the sentiment that August puts in them. And when I was typing that out, I realized like I love the lyrics of all of these songs and the
Mm-hmm.
sentiment behind all of them. Like I've never been, I've never been in a love triangle before. I can't even get one person to love me, let alone two. Uh, but somehow I felt all of these emotions at one point or another in my life. I have felt James's emotions of screwing something up in a relationship and seeking forgiveness, trying to repair it. I have been on the August side of falling for someone who just really isn't yours. Like no matter what, they may act like it. You may want it to be, but it's just never going to be. And I've been on the Betty side where like I'm a little bit older and I look back on a relationship that someone screwed up and thinking like I wonder what would have been. And like, but you like just thinking about through the way that she did, it's nuts to me. Like again, like I said, never been in a love triangle, but like it's so cool that these songs and the relationship between them don't even just fit around a love triangle. They're just so universal.
Yeah. I'd agree with that. I mean, personally, for the rankings for me, I feel like all of these, besides, I guess, Cardigan was never my number one, but they've all been in my top three. Like, all three of these songs have been fantastic. I think just the concept of them being connected somehow ranks them higher for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the fact that, okay, well, you put in this extra effort to make this cohesive story and all these lyrical Easter eggs that we talked about, how they relate to one another, which we'll kind of go over again. They're all so good. Like you said, they just all have this great meaning that they can be great independent songs, but somehow they're even better together. So I'd agree with you on that.
No, I think that definitely is a factor. The fact like they're all connected, and for some reason that will just bump them all up because
Mm-hmm.
people want to listen to them. They'll want to find those connections, kind of like what we already did.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the background on the love triangle.
So, straight from the horse's mouth, or the Taylor Swift goddess mouth, she has said about the three songs. One thing I purposely did on this album was put Easter eggs in the lyrics more than just the videos. I created character arcs and recurring themes that map out who is singing about who. For example, there's a collection of three songs I refer to as the Teenage Love Triangle. These three songs explore a love triangle from all three people's perspectives at different times in their lives. So, and she later on says about the song Cardigan, a cardigan that still bears the scent of loss 20 years later. Um, Something about a wine stained something about August slipping away. But so just pointing out from the before quote, the fact that she says these three songs, she never says what three songs, which I think is very interesting. All three people's perspectives, not putting any kind of label on it, and then at different times in their lives,
Mm-hmm.
signifying that it's not just, oh, this is what everyone's feeling at the moment. It could be, 20 years later, the cardigan is still bearing the scent of lost love. It could be about, okay, well, I'm here now and I'm going to react to it right now, or, oh, I'm reflecting about last summer and all the things that happened. So it's very interesting.
I love that because I also love that because it's from a storytelling perspective. It's so interesting because you can tell a chronological story start to finish. And yeah, I mean, obviously interesting. There's always different ways about it, but like specifically with attacking a relationship in that way, where it's like, not only do you get, and I think for art intents and purposes, we are going with the general consensus that the three songs that she is talking about are Betty, August, and Cardigan. There is a lot of room for debate, which we'll get into, but there are also the three different perspectives. Like, and this can be argued as well, but it definitely feels like Betty James's perspective is happening in the moment. August might be happening like a little bit down the line, like a year or so, and then Betty is like way down the line. It feels like, again, these can all be argued, but like I love that not only are we getting this story, but we're getting it in chunks from different perspectives all around, not just from the narrator, but from the
Mhm.
setting, from like all of this stuff. It just adds so much on top of it.
I love that it's also in reverse chronological order on the album. So it's like
I
you're
love that
going
too.
backwards and you're reflecting about it.
That's an interesting choice too. I think, um, like it's so funny because you especially with Cardigan being the first song, you don't even put anything together. Like you don't. I think Betty is the perfect end cap on it because that's when you have the wait a minute. Wait, I heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
Wait, like that's when you start to get all of those pieces and like mix them into the same pie. Um, which I think is it's just it I mean, commend her for her songwriting and her storytelling. Like she's just really good at it.
Yeah. So, how the triangle relates to real life, I think it's really interesting that people pointed out James and Inez are the names of Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' daughters, and Betty was rumored to be their most recent child's name. I'm not sure if they actually came out and confirmed it, but close sources say that yes, it is true. But so, just note 3 children, all daughters, no men, all daughters, for names that are typically like James, typically male names.
What is Inez typically a male name?
I think
Devin?
Inez could be probably debated as like my name, Devin, gender neutral.
I I think it's really funny that like there's an effect that happens when you hear a new word for the first time and you find out what it means and everything. You will then hear that word again within 24 hours. And I never once heard the name Inez before, and somehow I've heard it. I've heard multiple people at my company or like just around with the name Inez, and I'm like, this name didn't exist before Taylor Swift made it. How do you have this name? It's so funny to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are the 3 names that are mentioned. Again, like Inez isn't, I don't think Inez is the other woman. I think
Oh god, no.
Inez is just the town gossip, but we'll get into that later. So Betty is a return to Taylor Swift's country roots. The harmonica in the beginning. It's interesting because it's much like when she was 17, just like James was 17 in the song.
What she came out with self-titled at 17, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it just sounds like a self-titled album. It sounds, very country, very
It sounds like a
twangy.
very evolved
Mm-hmm.
Taylor Swift or self-titled
Yeah,
song.
exactly. And the thing that I found very interesting is that Cardigan, which is track 2, August, which is track 8, and Betty, which is track 14, are all equidistant in the album. They all have 5 tracks in between them.
I love this. I did
Mm-hmm.
not realize this until you pointed out.
Yeah.
To number one, I love that you got to use the word equidistant.
Mm-hmm.
Phenomenal word.
Thank you.
And two, I never realized that. That's so cool. Like it really makes you think about what she put in because there is no other way that I guess she could have done 3, 9, and 15, but like
Yeah.
I I'm curious as to why she picked the numbers that she had to pick August for 8, so I guess she couldn't have done it any other way. It had to be this way. She was going to put them 5 apart, and I like that it's exactly the same apart too,
Mm-hmm. That
because it
just
just
shows
lends a
that
lot of
those could
credence.
potentially be the ones that are connected.
It's just another reason that those two are the ones.
Mm-hmm.
So in a past episode, we tracked down how many inner album references that we could count between all of the songs on Folklore to other songs on Folklore. I wanted to do a quick refresher on what we found. Cardigan references August only once, but it references Betty 6 times, which is really confusing. This is going to be really confusing because we're talking about the song Betty, but Betty is James's song as far as this is concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we mentioned this in the beginning of the episode, but of these 3 songs, Cardigan is from Betty's perspective. Betty is from James's perspective, not confusing at all. And August is from unnamed mistress's perspective.
Yes.
I don't know why that happened there. So quick refresher on what we found. Cardigan references August once and Betty 6 times. August references Betty 3 times, but it doesn't reference Cardigan at all. And then Betty references Cardigan 6 times and August 3 times. So, Devin, what you gave a little bit of an explanation of this on that episode, but give us a quick refresher. What do you think this tells us?
I think it's fascinating because from this stance, if you look at the numbers, strictly numbers, James references Betty 6 times in the song, or references her song 6 times, and the song August only 3 times, literally half the amount of time. So it just goes to show you that he was, twice as invested in Betty that he was in his mistress, and just the care levels that go into it. I think it's fascinating that even numerically, it's just, I cared about her more. So I'm going to mention her more. And yes, whenever he does mention August, it's more of just like, oh, it was a mistake, or, oh, it was never like, oh, yeah, I don't regret it. It was always, I regret it. It was a mistake. It's just a summer thing. Doesn't mean anything. I miss you.
I like as well. August references Betty, which is James's song, so August is referencing James, but doesn't reference Cardigan at all, which makes a lot of sense. This unnamed mistress does not, or is there a male term for mistress? Mastress? No, that's not right.
Yeah.
Because we don't know. Again, we don't know genders here. Well, we know August is a woman, right?
It's
Yeah,
not,
dreamt of her. I slept next to
oh,
her.
yeah.
Yeah, so we do know she is a woman. So what we can confirm is that there is at least two women involved in this love triangle. But it doesn't. August doesn't reference Cardigan at all, which makes sense. She doesn't know who Betty is. Um, she might have just found out about Betty. She might have just found out about Betty. We don't know what the story is or how she found out or anything like that, but it makes perfect sense as to why she doesn't reference the relationship between James and Betty. Uh, and then you said with Cardigan only referencing August once, Betty doesn't even want to think about that girl. Um, she just wants to think about James because that's where at least the decent memories lie
Mm-hmm.
in some capacity. So you want to get into some lyric talk?
Yeah, so let's talk about the lyrics that tie it all together. So, just like we talked about in the inner album references episode, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into these lyrics that actually connect the songs together, and you go, wait, so they are about each other. So, the line from Betty, she said, James, get in, let's drive, versus the line, remember when I pulled up and said to get in the car, from August. Direct, cars, driving, it's the same story. It all lines up.
It's this is like when someone says rewrite this sentence in your own words, and this is what you come up with. I think this might have been the first one, at least that I recognized, that goes, wait a minute, these are tied.
It's the big obvious one.
It is the most obvious one because they're referencing an exact pinpointed uh not location, an exact pinpointed place in their relationship that happened. Both of them are, and they're uh, confirming each other's stories.
Mm-hmm. The next line, I was walking home on broken cobblestones in Betty, versus high heels on cobblestone in Cardigan.
I love this juxtaposition. I think one of the things I think is the most interesting is she does have to use. I guess she doesn't. I was gonna say she has to use like a specific word, but I like that she uses a specific word that ties them both together. Cobblestone is not a very common thing to reference in music. It also lends to another thing we mentioned with this album where Taylor just really likes to use weird words and somehow make them work lyrically. Cobblestone sounds like such a jumble of a word to say, let alone sing. I think it's interesting she's able to work it in there, but I like the ordering of it. Like in Betty, the cobblestones are broken, just like the relationship that James is trying to repair. But in Cardigan, when she's reminiscing to before the relationship ended, they're still intact. Like their relationship was in Betty's memory. I love seeing like those cobblestones represented the relationship went from being pristine, easily walked on, to easy enough to walk on in high heels. You didn't have to worry about it. To walking home on broken cobblestones, where if you've ever I've driven on cobblestone, it is a nightmare.
Well, yeah, but
But
even if you say that, high heels on cobblestone, I mean, cobblestone isn't an easy surface to walk on. So if you're in high heels, it's still, you're able to do it. They're not
That's a good
broken yet,
point.
but it's still harder to navigate it.
That's a good point. And I
Mm-hmm.
like that as like
It's
another
uneven.
allegory for their relationship. It's ooh, that's even better. It's uneven. Like just like their relationship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Betty's giving more than he's taking, he's double dipping. No, I love that.
Yep. All right, to the next lyric, kissing in the car again from Betty to kiss in cars from a cardigan.
Um this line, specifically the one from Betty, makes me laugh so much because I can't get over the fact that she rhymes cardigan with car again. It's so it's so funny to me. But I mean, this is another one of those just like copy paste lines. Just
Mm-hmm.
we're gonna make these two match.
Yep. The next line, it was just a summer thing from Betty to so much for summer love in August, which I love the fact that it's the juxtaposition between, oh, it was a summer thing. It wasn't anything. It was just this thing to so much for summer love, where it's like to August, it could have been love. It could have been this, epic romance. And to James, it was just something that you throw away.
I also love like how she takes this concept and shows that it's an oxymoron in a lot of ways because a summer fling, that's a saying, that's a thing. It's just, this is just
Mm-hmm.
for the summer, it's not a serious thing. But summer love is a serious thing, and it's like well, which one is these two people are feeling the same summer love, but to them it means very different things. And it's funny that there are sayings that do that,
Mm-hmm.
um which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. The next line, I'm going to skip over this next one and get back to it later. The next one, I'm only 17, I don't know anything, versus because I knew everything when I was young. It just goes to show you the maturity level. Oh, I'm only 17, I don't know anything. And if that was in the moment versus a song that reflects 20 years later, oh, I did know everything when I was young. Like you just weren't the mature when I was mature. Next lyric, again, another copy and paste. Stopped at a streetlight, I miss you, versus drunk under a streetlight, I knew you.
I like the tail ends of those two because it one, well, I don't like that they drunk under a streetlight and stopped at a streetlight imply drinking and driving. Don't do that.
No.
But I like that, like, stopped at a streetlight, I miss you, is James' perspective, and drunk under a streetlight, I knew you. They're both reflecting their relationship on a specific point in their relationship, but they're viewing it very differently. James is, I miss you, I want this, and she goes, I knew you back then, like back when that was a part of our relationship. I knew who you were. I thought I knew you. And now it's completely different.
Yeah. And then the next line, when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed versus standing in your cardigan. Again, cardigan, a direct
I'm very
connection.
disappointed in you, Devin. I'm very disappointed.
Standing in your cardigan.
There you go. When I wrote that lyric, I put like 17 N's at the end of cardigan
Mm-hmm.
because it's meant to be belted. No, I think one of the interesting things for me about this specific lyric, specifically looking at when I felt like I was an old cardigan under someone's bed, she doesn't give the owner of the bed a name, which I think is really interesting. Normally, I wouldn't think anything of it, but the fact that the mistress is unnamed is a big thing of someone, like, of not giving ownership to something,
Mm-hmm.
which I think is interesting. And you can look at it in a couple of different ways. The fact that the mistress doesn't have a name, and now the owner of this bed, under someone's bed, who knows whose bed it could be. But the other fact of the bed isn't Betty's anymore. When it was James's bed, it was theirs.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's not hers anymore. Whose bed is it? Because
Mm.
clearly she's talking about she's not just talking about any cardigan. Because we see in James's song, she's referencing standing in your cardigan. Like, it's your cardigan. No matter
Mm-hmm.
what, I think Betty is referencing her own cardigan because it's referencing the time back in her life. Uh, so it's got to be James's bed that she's talking
Yep.
about, because she would say under my bed.
Well, because it's
Um,
you put me on it under someone's bed, but you put me on and said I was your favorite, referencing, okay, well, you have access to this bed, but who are you sharing it with now? Like,
Mm-hmm.
who's claiming it?
Which is I really something I didn't notice until I put it under
Mm-hmm.
the microscope.
That's very interesting. Next line. And you'd be standing in my front porch light from Cardigan versus Betty, I'm here on your doorstep from Betty.
Oh,
But
it's been
yeah,
so long since I've heard that.
front porch
Um,
light, I'm on your doorstep. It's you've come back.
isn't this the part that we said there was like this is where it branches off? Excuse me.
Oh, about what happens next?
Yeah, like this is the part where we don't really know. Like we don't know does she say yes and accept him back, or does she and
Mm-hmm.
take him to the garden, or does she tell him F you forever?
Yeah.
Um or the way that she says it. I forget what it is.
Well,
But
that can even tie into the next lyric that I'll bring up. Chase two girls, lose the one from from Cardigan versus potentially the one. You know, it's you're using the song title in that lyric.
mhm.
Could be intentional.
Which it like because that's the other thing is if the one is I think that's so funny because I think if the one was going to replace any song, it would be Cardigan.
Mm-hmm.
Because I don't think the one would be from also just from Betty's perspective again.
Yep.
Which I think is interesting. She's kind of hinting at that fact that the one might also be from Betty's perspective.
Mm-hmm. Which we
Um,
will get into later.
which we will. But I can the next lyric would be and I can see us twisting in bed sheets versus slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all summer long. Um, this one I think is really interesting because again we're getting another bed reference here. Um, James saying slept next to her, but I dreamt of you all night long, indicating he's stolen that bed from Betty. It's no longer just
Mm-hmm.
hers and his. But see us twisting in bed sheets. She's remembering that bed. She's claiming that bed. She's trying to claim that bed. And James is doing everything he can to try to give it back to Betty. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I want, it's like a ring or something. I want you to have this bed. But you can see, we get to the end of the story with Cardigan, and she refused to claim it.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
next
then,
line,
yeah.
specifically for me, I put this one in there because technically these lines aren't tied together in any way, shape, or form, but like, aren't they though? To me, they really are. The two lines back when we were still changing for the better in August, and because I knew everything when I was young. Uh, Devin's giving me a little bit of a side eye
I'm
here.
just trying to figure it out.
So
So please explain.
there are a couple of reasons for me specifically, and I could be in the sole minority on this one. Uh, the way that they're sung and the positioning of the song that in the song that they are make me think of them when I put them together. Because I knew everything when we were young is like this big reveal towards the bridge of Cardigan, and back when we were still changing for the better, is this big introduction to the bridge for August. So they kind of mesh at least in that sense.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea of like because I knew everything when we were young, but back when we were still changing for the better. Like these are both reminiscing on this old selves they used to be. Like we said, our theory that we're giving the most credence to is that August happened maybe a year or so later after the affair. Betty happened 20 years. So the unnamed mistress is saying back when we were still changing for the better, she's looking back on it on a different light and thinking this is what happened back then. And then Betty is thinking at the same thing of like, I knew everything when I was young. Uh, I can't explain it that well. I don't know why I feel this way, but there's something about those two lyrics, man. They're so similar. They're so ear catching.
I think that maybe to explain it better, at this point, James and his mistress, their songs are closer in time frame versus Betty's just kind of showing the difference in maturity levels. It's we
Mm,
were still changing for the better. We were wrong, but we were trying to be right. Versus Betty who's saying, "No, I knew all that. I knew that you guys did something wrong."
yeah. I love that one. I really
Mm-hmm.
do.
Yes.
The next lyric I found that I think we had like a decent conversation about, that we found really interesting is August and Cardigan. Again, this is another one. This is not a copy and paste lyric comparison like most of the ones we had before, and I don't think we counted this in our inner discography or inner album references. But in August, there's a line, "You're back beneath the sun, wishing I could write my name on it." And then versus in Betty, "But I knew you'd linger like a tattoo kiss."
Not in Betty and Cardigan.
In
Mhm.
Betty's songs, I
Yeah, I
hate it. It's
know.
so confusing. Um, but the thing that I wanted to point out about this one specifically that's really interesting is "You're back beneath the sun." That couplet, I always thought that it was "You are back beneath the sun," but the lyrics are spelled differently. They're spelled Y-O-U-R, which denotes possessiveness. So she's not talking about James being back. She's talking about his physical back, like back of his body. So it like conjuring up an image of the being on the beach together, which makes sense given salt air in the beginning of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And saying, "Wishing I could write my name on it." Like she's wishing she could claim to him, write her name on it back. And I think that that's just so interesting that it ties together to Betty Cardigan, where she says, "But I knew you'd linger like a tattoo kiss." The unnamed mistress wants to give him a tattoo kiss. She wants to tattoo him with her name and with that relationship. And that's what he did to Betty.
Mm-hmm. Wishing she could write my name on it.
Mm.
But what's her name?
No, and that's the other thing. I love that it points out, like, she specifically says, "Wishing I could write my name on it," but we just don't ever get her name.
Mm-mm.
I thought
Crazy.
that was the thing that had this lyric jump out to me, was the fact that we reference specifically this mistress's name, but we don't get anything further.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Did you have any other ones? Any last minute verses lyrics that you want to go over?
Nope.
All right, let's go into the next category, our favorite story driven lyrics.
So explain.
All right, so I added this one last minute because I really like lyrics, and this album, like we said many times, we've done it's evoked a new episode type, where we do deep dives in the lyrics, and there's just so much to pull out here. So I wanted to look at lyrics that specifically gave us pictures of the story that we really liked. I didn't pull all of them because it would
Mm-hmm.
be all of them. But there are specific things that like give us little tidbits into the story itself of these relationships.
Yeah.
So the first one that I pulled out that I absolutely loved, and I loved when we had like a little bit of a mini breakthrough live on air about it, was "Playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends."
So this line comes from Cardigan, which is from Betty's perspective, assuming she's singing to James. I knew you playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends. Playing hide and seek could be, okay, well, I'm gone. You don't know where I am, and giving me your weekends, which is typically when you date someone. You spend the weekends together because it's the most time that you'll have with someone. So the fact that you're kind of away, but your weekends or my weekends are yours. Like that's the commitment that I'm giving to you. The hide and seek displays this childlike sense of immaturity, and it's so cool.
I think my favorite way to look at this like is because I think this line comes after I probably does. This is I knew you. I knew you playing hide and seek and giving me your weekends. I love the idea of like, well, when he was with no name over there, he had to hide from her. He had to meet her behind the mall, away from the
Mm-hmm.
crowds. He had to do all of this stuff to get away from her, and he was doing that during the week. That was
Yep.
when he gave her that time, and it's the summer, so you didn't have school, so he could be during the week. And then on his weekends, he would go to Betty,
Mm-hmm.
and he would giving her weekends like a probation style thing, like, or not probation. That's the wrong word. Like a custody
Mm-hmm.
kind of thing,
Yeah.
which I think is it's such an innocuous lyric, especially the giving me your weekends, because like it could just mean so many things. And I think it's so fascinating to like really dive into specifically. I'm glad we did a between the lines on that. I'm excited to do between the lines for the rest of them.
Yeah.
Um, the next line also from Cardigan was another one that you pointed out while we were
Mm-hmm.
doing the between the lines is the stepping on the last train.
Yes, also from Cardigan, signifying you're not stepping on the first train. You're not eager, first in line. Yeah, I'm gonna take this with me. It's the last train. You're stepping on this moving thing at the last possible moment, saying, okay, well, should I? I don't know. Okay, well, I'm gonna do it just so I don't lose out on the opportunity.
It's like you're waiting and you know there's not gonna you think there's not gonna be another one coming. You just got to get on it at the end of the night. You got to get on anything and get home. Uh, and that's what he kind of did with Betty, or at least that's how she's taking it. And
Yeah.
like I can't blame him or blame her. Like, oh, well, you're just going with me because maybe things screwed up with the other girl. We also don't know how things ended with No Name, which
Mm-hmm.
is quickly becoming her name. But we don't know how it ended. We don't know if No Name knew about Betty or her finding out about Betty. Like this whole thing, we like to think the story tells us James had this moment of weakness with a figment of his worst intentions on through the summer. It could have been because Betty during the school year was more accessible. He saw her more, and then when he didn't see her as much in the summer, it just laid way to him making this mistake. And then as soon as school started, he realized his mistake, came to his senses, and wanted to make things right. But it very easily could have been, oh crap, No Name found out that I had been dating Betty, maybe from Inez, who knows, um, and told her, and now she's upset and rightfully so at me that I'm cheating on my girlfriend with her, and now she left me, and now all I have is Betty. So I'm gonna take the last train because this is it, and hopefully Betty doesn't know yet, but she might have heard the rumors from Inez. I know No Name did, uh, and just take it to a whole other level that makes James even even worse.
Yeah. It's
Um,
from the lyrics, it paints the picture that they were dating, Betty
mhm.
and James, during school probably, and then summer happened. They weren't seeing each other as much. He had this affair, and then once school restarted, rumors were kind of flying around. They had the dance, and he was nowhere to be found, and she was just kind of like, "All right, what's happening?" And then she heard rumors from Inez, and at that point, you
Switched her
know,
homeroom.
the No Name girl, she's like, will you call when you're back at school? She's kind of thinking, okay, well, if this is the end of it, what's do I even have you anymore?
I mean, he wasn't hers to lose,
Mm-hmm.
but like that's the other thing is like we just don't know exactly. We don't. It's so cool because we get like with all these perspectives, we do get a the main gist of the story. But I think that crux, we're missing the climax. We're
Mm-hmm.
missing how it all went down. We're
Yeah.
just getting like the only in the moment lyrics we're getting are from James in the song Betty, where it's not even during the moment. It's very much a during after the moment it happened. It's during the denouement where everything's going down and like slowly tail ending off, and then we just get two memories of it. We don't
Mm-hmm.
get anything that happened in the moment or what was going on unless it's through a memory, which I think is insane. Like it's so cool to see a story, and I didn't even realize that until I said it. But we have a story without a climax, but
Yeah.
we're still like gripped by it. Like we're still
Mm-hmm.
here for it.
Without a climax or without an ending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The closest to an ending is if we believe Betty, and like they just never worked out, but she's still living somewhere in Betty's memories.
But you
Um,
don't know. It
mhm.
never says I took him back. The latest part of the story that we hear was Betty was having a party and he just showed up on her doorstep. And that's the last thing that we know for fact happens.
And we like yeah, because they could have gotten back together and then broken up again later.
Mm-hmm.
Cardigan does make me think they aren't together anymore.
Yeah.
Regardless, I don't think if Cardigan is Betty's song, which again, the general consensus is that it is, um, it it does give us the closure of they are not together anymore, but we don't know We don't know what happened after James showed up at our door. We really
Mm-hmm.
don't. Oh geez, we still have a lot more lyrics on this one. So let's see if we can power through a little bit more of these. So
Mm-hmm.
tried to change the ending, Peter losing Wendy. Cardigan again. This is where we get that point with James where he's trying to change this ending. He's trying to fix everything, but the next line, Peter losing Wendy, kind of gives it away that we don't think it worked.
Yeah.
Uh, this line, the next lyric, might be it. Honestly, it just might be my favorite lyric on the whole album.
Mm-hmm.
Betty.
Right
What is
now is the
right
last
now is
time.
Betty? Right now is the last time I can dream about what happens when you see my face again.
Mm.
It's just it's like a feeling that you always had. Everyone has had this feeling before because everyone. I mean, we're all anxiety ridden, but like, even if you aren't, you're still going to play out situations in your head, especially big ones like this. And it just puts it in such an elegant way of talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and such a poetic way of talking about it. Like, we've talked about this lyric a lot, but like the fact that last time is this is the last time I can dream about, because no matter what, anything could happen when you open that door.
Mm-hmm.
And I can go through, I can Doctor Strange it a million different ways and find out every possible ending in my head, what could go on. But once that door is open, once you see my face, that's the ending. That's
Mm-hmm.
the ending I'm stuck with for the rest of my life. And there's just so much in that line that just it gets me every time, man.
Yeah.
Every time.
The next lyric, when she pulled up like a figment of my worst intentions, from Betty.
It's so good.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. We get more of that, like those weird words that just don't shouldn't fit in a song, but do figment in worst intentions. Like
Rather than imagination.
she definitely pulled out the dictionary and the thesaurus for this one and the syllable counter. But like I love the idea of like it's reverse personification, which is interesting too. He's taking this woman and changing her into a fabrication or an abstract idea.
Mm-hmm.
He's also putting some, it's pretty bad because he's saying, no, this isn't a person, this is my worst intention
It's a figment.
incarnate. It's a what?
Yeah. It's a figment.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to me to think the contrast between a figment of someone's imagination versus intention. So it's he wasn't just imagining, oh, what could it be like? It was of my worst intentions. Like this is something that I intentionally did and chose to do.
There's an interesting thing going around that I saw a while back that was like, if if he cheats on you when he's drunk, that doesn't mean that it was a mistake. It was just something he needed an excuse to do, or something along those lines of like,
Mm-hmm.
when you get drunk, you don't do things you wouldn't do. Like if you get drunk, you wouldn't go, all right, I'm going to shoot someone. Well, who knows? But those are things that, oh my god, what's the line? What's the
It's like you're not.
sober thoughts are drunk actions, or
Yeah.
something like that. And that's what it is. It's like he might have had these thoughts when he was in his right mind, but when he given the that's those are his intentions the whole time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The next lyric, wanting was enough for me. It was enough, from August.
I added this one because there's just something about this lyric for me. It really shows what she was going through. She was relegated to wanting this relationship more than anything. She clung to that want because in truth it was all she had. At the end of the day, she didn't have the relationship. She just had the idea and the wants of it. And
Mm.
again, that boils down to another abstract concept of just the idea of this relationship. You know that the James no name relationship was also uneven like cobblestones. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was unrequited, even though she got the physicality of it. She never got the emotional side of it, and that's all she had. All she was left wanting.
Yeah.
And then
Interesting.
the last one is I knew you'd miss me once the thrill expired. The reason I put this one on here was it is the closest thing to a direct reference to the girl from August in Cardigan.
It's the
Like you,
hey, this happened. The thrill.
mm-hmm. This girl again. The girl is relegated to an abstract concept or an idea or an action. She's not a person. Like the only time we ever get her humanity really is saying, "Wishing I could write my name on it." That gives her some form of person, but it's also her speaking.
Yeah. It's her
Like we
song.
don't. It's her song, so obviously she's a person in her own mind. But to James and to Betty, she's not a person. She is a mistake. She is an accident. She is a figment of his worst intentions. She is just a thrill that expired. They don't talk about her as a human being. They talk about her as these concepts, these abstract ideas.
Crazy.
I love this stuff. This is
Yes.
oh.
So here is where we are going to take a quick pause. Well, not pause. We're going to take a long
A
pause.
2-day pause.
2-day pause. Um, and we'll get back for the next episode to just resume where we left off.
So for the next episode, we're going to dive really deep into a lot of the theories around this album. Specifically, we're going to dive in the biggest theory that it's not just a 3-song love triangle. It's all of them. So we're really going to dive into that and some other theories that have been circulating around. But we didn't want to put all of that in one episode because we're at my recording is saying I'm at like 50 minutes right now.
Yeah.
So that would be probably a 2-hour episode. So we're gonna cut this down, do a 2-parter. But if you liked what you heard on this episode, please be sure to give us a review and a 5-star rating on Apple. If you really like us and you like what you hear and you have a Swiftie friend, tell them about us.
Yeah, and make sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you want to see our beautiful faces talking. We are at We Need to Calm Down Podcast on Twitter, WNTCD Podcast, but we're mostly on Instagram, just letting you know.
100% on Instagram.
That and YouTube. Those are where you're going to get our most interactions.
If you have a suggestion for an episode, please feel free to drop us a comment on the YouTubes or DM us on Instagram. Like I said, those are our 2 most big ones.
Mm-hmm.
We love hearing from you guys. We love your feedback. And a lot of the episodes that we come up with are based off of things that you guys have said you wanted.
Yep. And aside from that, thank you so much for listening to the We Need to Calm Down podcast. We'll see you on Thursday. Come back.
We'll be here.